It is great to be here, especially for the SGA Student Election Chapel. Now, before the candidates come up to talk about their platforms, I want to briefly explain why civic engagement is important, not just for when you graduate, when you're after Biola, but actually why you're a student here and now. So, while I'm here to speak about the importance of engaging in the political process, I know that not all of you are going to share my enthusiasm for politics. Now, for example, listen to what one Christian author named Keith Giles wrote in a book calling for total separation of church and state. And this really reflects a weariness that a lot of Christians have, especially after the 2016 presidential election. When asked specifically about Christianity's relationship to the Republican Party, here is how he responded. Let's be clear. The answer to all of this is not to join the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party, or even to create our own political party. No. The answer is to abandon politics completely, to refocus our eyes on Jesus, and to place our faith in his plan to change the world. And while this anti-political sentiment is becoming more and more commonplace among Christians, it's becoming evident that even among the entire country, wariness for politics is rising. Take these figures, for example. President Donald Trump has the lowest approval ratings of any president in history this early on in his administration. And Congress is not doing much better. At the beginning of the legislative session for 2017, their approval rating was 19%. Less than 1 out of 5 people thought Congress was doing a good job. And this one might actually be the worst. The Rasmussen report every week polls the question of whether citizens think the country is going in the right direction or heading in the wrong track. And going all the way back to 2009, there has not been a single week in which the majority of citizens thought the country was heading in the right direction. But today's move towards politics goes much beyond just the statistics. Many people across the country, including people in this gymnasium, have been deeply hurt, deeply disrespected, and deeply offended by the policies, the tone, and the rhetoric of those in leadership. So, is Keith Giles right in saying we should wipe our hands clean of the political process? Well, if he is, this is going to be a pretty short chapel talk, so the answer is no. Now, despite all the facts I just mentioned about how bad politics is, I want to give 2 reasons why Christians have to stay engaged and then offer a better view of the relationship between faith and politics. The first problem is that the idea of completely abandoning politics deeply misunderstands a Christian's relationship to the broken world, and secondly, it fails to understand the responsibilities and duties we have been entrusted with. So, when looking for insight into the proper relationship Christians should have with the broken world, let's look at Matthew 15, verses 13 through 16, where Jesus states, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." Now, the idea of salt and light, which Jesus talks about salt in the preceding verses, is the idea of Christian engagement in the world. Yes, we're supposed to be distinct. Yes, we're supposed to do it differently than the world does, but we're supposed to be engaged in the processes. And additionally, what aspects of our life aren't broken? What career paths, what industries, what aspects of community life don't have problems? Business has problems, education has problems, medicine has problems, certainly the local church has problems, but yet we're not called to abandon those, so why do we think it's okay to abandon politics? And this leads me to my second point about the idea of stewardship. From Matthew 25 in the parable of the talents, we know that everyone is called to be a faithful steward of the resources God gives you. And while the early church, unlike us today, did not have the ability to actively participate in government, we still know that leaders such as Paul, Silas, and Timothy used their political talents, namely their Roman citizenship, to advance the gospel. As you read the book of Acts, look at how many times those leaders will leverage their political and Roman citizenship to help further the gospel. So applying that concept to today, I believe that stewardship involves being aware and active in government and engaging in any and all political opportunities that are afforded to us. So those are two reasons why we should be engaged in politics, but you might be wondering, how do we do that without going too far? Certainly church history and even examples recently have shown that the church can become too politicized, can become too engaged in politics. So how do we find that right balance? C.S. Lewis found an answer by looking to the great examples of political engagement in church history. And here's what he observed. The apostles themselves, who set on foot the conversion of the Roman Empire, the great men who built up the Middle Ages, and the English evangelicals who abolished the slave trade, all left their mark on earth precisely because their minds were occupied with heaven. So it seems like the choice between heaven or earth, faith or politics, is in fact a false one. We are called to be people who put the kingdom first in all issues, and that includes politics. But we understand that faith in the age to come means we don't live and die with the next presidential election, the next midterms, because we understand how the story is ultimately going to end with Jesus still ruling on the throne. And think about how much this point is missed, especially recently. How many of you heard from both aisles of the political parties that the 2016 presidential election was the most important one in history? How many of you heard it in 2012, 2008? And I can guarantee it will be said again in 2020. So we as Christians need to resist that temptation to put our ultimate hope in politics, because we understand that while politics is important, it's not the end-all be-all. And another reason I believe Christians have had a tough time with political engagement is that we don't quite understand the relationship of politics and community engagement. So civic engagement is important. Civic engagement basically just means how can we help further and improve our community, but people have sometimes confused the two. Civic engagement includes politics, but it's more than just politics. Listen to how one scholar defines civic engagement when he writes, "Civic engagement means working to make a difference in the civic life of our communities and developing that combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivations to make that difference. It means promoting the quality of life in a community through both political and non-political processes." This holistic approach to community engagement better helps us understand the role of politics. And hopefully this definition makes it easier for you to appreciate the importance of community engagement, which is going to include politics, because we understand the importance of community. John Wesley, an 18th century pastor and theologian, once wrote, "The Bible knows nothing of solitary religion," meaning that for us to live out our lives faithfully as Christians, we're going to have to engage in community. St. Augustine understood the importance of community, not only in general or in the abstract, but the importance of community that you find yourselves in here and now. He wrote, "But you cannot do good to all people equally, so you should take particular thought for those who, as if by lot, happen to be particularly close to you in terms of place, time, or any other circumstances." So think about it. As Biola city officials help to plan the Love La Mirada Day of Service, as ministries like Brown Bag Ministries and Biola Buddies help to serve demographics in our community that are often overlooked, and as churches in the area attend to not only the physical but spiritual needs of the people around us, civic engagement is happening. But while all this is great, and I don't want to undermine the importance of things like that, there are certain parts of communal living that can only be addressed through political processes. So if we as Christians want to live out our faith and care for those around us as best we can, it's going to have to include political engagement. So, bringing this all together, you will soon have the chance to engage and improve in the community you're in right now by voting for your student leaders. These leaders are elected through the political process and are going to help Biola not only improve their own community, but serve as an agent to help those around. So, with that being said, I'd like to invite current SGA President Jess Snow and the candidates running for President and Vice President. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take this time to welcome you all again to SGA Chapel. I'm so glad you all are here. My name is Jess Snow, and I'm the current student body president this year, and it has been a privilege to be able to serve all of you this year, and just so much fun, so much excitement. It's been a great year as I look back, and it's crazy to think that a year ago, Sam and I were doing the same thing, and it's fun to see it all come full circle. So next up this morning, we're going to begin a time of Q&A with our presidential and vice presidential candidates. As we just heard from Jason, it is a privilege for each one of us to have the opportunity to be an engaged voter during our elections at Biola. So I invite you all to lean in, to listen actively to the candidates for next year's SJ leadership, and to make your decisions. And Ella, Greg, Jada, Percy, I want to thank you guys for being here with us this morning, and I'm excited to hear about all of your unique plans for SGA. But before we get into all of the technical SGA stuff, would you all mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Maybe your name, major, year, hometown, favorite cereal, the works. Greg, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I would love to. So my name is Greg Ambrose. There's my voice. All right. So my name's Greg Ambrose. I'm a junior English major. I am technically from Henderson, Nevada, although I tell everybody I'm from Las Vegas because nobody has any idea where Henderson is. And my favorite cereal's definitely got to be Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So, yeah.
Ella?
Hi guys, I'm Ella. I am a junior business major here at Biola. I'm from Fullerton, California, so pretty close by. My favorite breakfast cereal is oatmeal squares. That sounds kind of boring, but I like them.
Thanks. Jada?
Yeah, I'm Jada Wise. I'm a sophomore here at Biola, and I'm a political science major. I'm from Redding, California. Same thing, nobody really knows where that is, but that's fine. And though I don't have a favorite cereal, here's like a weird fun fact about myself. I like eating cereal without milk and then drinking the milk afterwards.
Yeah. So, solid. Good choice.
Hi, I'm Percy George, and I am a incoming junior. I am an international business major and a sociology minor, and favorite cereal, Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah. Wow. Some great cereal choices here. So thanks, guys. So to begin our conversation, could each team share the highlights of their campaign platform? Jada and Percy, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 3 main points that we're committed to if elected for this upcoming school year. The first is open lines of communication. Because the goal of SGA is to speak for students, we believe that we have to have an active line of communication between ourselves and the students. And practically what that looks like is a bi-weekly meeting over at the Fireside Pavilion, as well as one-on-ones made available online. And then our second point is promoting a Biola presence in the community around us, because we believe as student leaders on a Christian university campus, it's important to not just engage on campus, but also outside of campus. And practically what that looks like is partnering with nonprofit organizations. So.
And our last point in our platform is preserving unity in Biola's diversity. And what that means is just listening to different perspectives and backgrounds. Jada and myself, Jada comes from SGA, and I'm an RA right now, and just coming together and doing this platform and experiencing unity and diversity in such a small scale, we want to be able to extend that to the whole Biola community.
Great. Thanks, guys. And Greg and Ella, can you tell us a little bit about your campaign platform?
Yeah, we would love to. So our campaign platform is called Creating Inclusive Community, and it really breaks down into 3 main points. Those are awareness, relationship, and inclusion. Awareness is just all about helping students become better informed, better educated about what SGA does so they can be involved really, really easily. Relationship is all about having SGA maintain a physical presence on campus, because nothing can ever replace a face-to-face interaction with staff. And then the third point, inclusivity, the big one, is all about broadening the way senators do representation so that we can get more voices at the table and hear your stories. So.
Great. Thanks, guys. So actually, that's a great segue into our next question. So both teams have mentioned the importance of inclusivity. Could you explain a little bit about what this looks like and give us a concrete example of how you would carry that out? Greg and Ella, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, no problem. So basically, our primary goal with inclusivity is to bring diverse conversations to the table with SGA. So what that practically looks like is broadening senators' representation. Right now, there's a big group being missed with off-campus students. It's really hard to find them when you're representing a location. So we want senators to represent different departments, different clubs, different affinity groups, different athletic teams. That way, they're not just representing a dorm, but also different people groups.
Great. Thanks, guys. Jay and Percy, same question about looking at inclusivity and explaining what that looks like and giving us a concrete example of how do you carry that out.
Yeah. So when we mean inclusivity, we are hoping to include diverse perspectives as well and experiences, and how we gauge that is really taking into account that we train senators, so we would like to train them in a way that they are able to empathize and listen to student stories well, and that's what we hope to do when we talk about inclusivity.
Great, thank you. So another point that both teams have shared as important to their campaign platform is talking about partnering with different leadership and student-run organizations that are on campus. So Jane and Percy, why don't you start us off with this? And could you tell us, why would connecting with those other groups on campus benefit the student body? Why does SGA need to be interacting with them?
So going off my point of inclusivity, really SGA, or the student body, is really inclusive of SMU, global students, affinity groups, clubs, intramurals, RAs, and really, although we can't have like face-to-face interactions with the thousands of students here on campus, we partner with the leadership on campus, and we connect with them so that they can give us feedback on how we can better serve the student body. They'll let us know what the needs are, more on a face-to-face level. Serving as an RA right now, I know what that looks like, and so being able to take in what RAs say is important to me and our pick.
Great, thanks guys. And then Greg and Ella, same question. Partnering with different leadership organizations on campus, why is that important for us as students?
Totally. So one of the main reasons it's so important is because there's an array of diverse voices that are within each club, group, department off campus that we're really not reaching right now, because currently senators are only responsible for targeting students by dorm. And that's great, but we miss a lot of students in the process. So if we really want to get more voices involved, we need to partner with those organizations and reach out to them specifically, because those voices not being heard honestly isn't acceptable. We can do so much better for all of you.
Great, thank you. So both of you, sorry, I was about to repeat the same question. So as many people know, every student pays a student fee. The student fee is allocated to many important and essential organizations on campus for student thriving, such as SMU, SPA, the Chimes, Biola, Point, GSPD, SEED. There's a lot that goes into. SGA is given governance of allocating these funds to the different departments in a way that protects student interests with care. As the leaders of SGA next year, how do you plan to be a good steward of the student finances that will be in your care? Can you guys start us out with that?
Yeah, so as Jess explained, the student fee comes to us every fall, and we get a portion of student tuition that comes directly to the SGA budget. But in addition to that, we also get a lot of rollover budget from years before, which ends up building up in SGA's budget. But what happens with that is we preserve money and we tend to hoard it a little bit. So basically what we want to do is we want to spend it on the current students rather than saving it and hoarding it. We think good stewards spend it on what it's intended for. So we want to spend the student fee each year fully.
Great. Jada and Percy, same question. How do you plan on being a good steward of the student fee next year?
Yeah, ours is actually pretty similar to your guys's. We know that the vision of SGA is to spend the student fee in such a way that encourages and empowers students. So that's basically what we want to do. When students come to us, though we can't tell senators how to vote on certain proposals when they come, but we can lead by example and encourage them to use the money wisely and with discretion, but also if the event benefits the community and there's certain guidelines and whatnot, but if it fulfills those, we believe that we should give enough to be able to put on an event and put it on well. So,
great. Thanks, everyone. So next, I have a question that is specific to just Jada and Percy. So you mentioned the importance of partnering with off-campus organizations in order to enhance Biola's presence in the La Mirada community. Could you give us a concrete example of what one of those service days would look like, maybe how you plan on organizing that, just a little bit more in depth as to what your vision for that was?
Yes, okay. So, like I said earlier, we think it's really important to serve not just this community, but the community around us. And we're planning on partnering with a different nonprofit every month. So per semester, we'd have 3, per year, we'd have 6. And so the day-to-day thing is gonna look a little different because we're gonna be partnering with different organizations. But one of them that we're looking into is called Giving Children Hope, and their vision is operating under the belief that no child should go hungry or sick or like whatever. So if we partnered with them, a day with them would look like organizing medical supplies, handing out food in the streets, or like any drive that way, mail packaging, yeah. So it's going to look a little different depending on the organization, but that's it. Yeah.
Great. Could I also ask a follow-up on just that section of your guys' campaign? What could you explain a little bit about the importance of students being involved with that, or why you see that as one of like the most vital things for SGA as it being represented in one of the 3 things you want to bring about next year?
Yeah, so it's not specifically an SGA thing. I think it's a Christian university thing. I think other organizations are kind of centered around serving both this community and the outside community, and I think SGA needs to be more proactive in doing that, because Biola as a whole is working on promoting Biola's name per se. And so I think as student leaders, we need to get behind a vision that Biola has, and one way in doing that is serving the community.
Great. Thanks, guys. Okay, so Greg and Ella, I also have a question just for you. You guys talked in your campaign platform that about the importance of SGA always keeping students informed. That's something that's really important to the 2 of you. What are ways that SGA can continue to grow in informing students well?
That's actually a really good question, and I'd love to answer it with a really quick story, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Last year when I was campaigning, I met a girl in Blackstone. We'll call her Emma. And Emma told me that in her 4 years here, she was a senior, in her 4 years, she had never once spoken to her senator or any staff from SGA. And that honestly broke my heart, because if we're here to represent students, we need to have good relationships with them. We think that good relationship starts with keeping them aware. And there's 2 really good ways we want to do that, really concrete ways. The first is, by having lots of open hours available where students can directly meet with me, meet with Ella to talk about the things that are important to them, because SGA is all about pushing the passions and interests of students, not our own. And second, we want to live stream our Senate meetings, because a lot of students don't know you can actually attend those as often as you want. And we think the audience could be so much bigger if we included everybody in the conversation online. So.
Great. Thanks, guys. Can I ask a quick follow-up on that, too?
Yeah, totally.
So sometimes we've noticed in student government in the past that sometimes, I mean, I get it. We're all students. We're all busy. Sometimes it's hard to get students to come to certain events like that, because we're all busy. We've got chapel to go to and class to go to and papers to write, and so maybe there's like a lot of drive-in students who want to be involved, but maybe don't have the time to always connect. How do you guys plan on making that better assisted so that way students can engage more easily in their busy schedules with some of the things you have planned?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because the truth is we're busy enough as students, but we never want the reason students aren't involved to be because they didn't know or because it was too difficult. Students should have the total freedom to completely ignore SGA if they want. We have a lot going on already, but there should never be any reason that students can't get involved. It shouldn't be difficult. So this is just about removing those blockades and those barriers that prevent them from actually having good relationship with us.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. So I just want to thank you all for joining us this morning. I am so excited that you all want to be involved in learning more about student government, and I hope you all have a lovely day.
Biola University prepares Christians to think biblically about everything, from science to business to education and the arts. Learn more at biola.edu.